Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing a tier list of every episode from The Boys now that it's finally fucking done. So, let me go ahead and get started. First up, we have episode 1. So, honestly, pretty solid fucking episode. I liked it quite a lot. One of the more accurate episodes to, the comics. Not that that's necessarily the best thing in the world, since the comics are absolute dog shit. But yeah, I thought I did a really good job of building up Homelander and making him kind of seem like, maybe he's like one of the only people here who's like not the worst person in the world. And it's like, oh, actually, no, he just killed a child and his dad and a whole bunch of people in an airplane. So yeah, honestly, that's probably an S tier for me because I mean, just everything from like the story to the characters, I thought they just set everything up perfectly. So episode 2 is also pretty good. Definitely not as good as the first, but I like what they did with Frenchie, introducing his character. I like just the whole kind of way that the story revolves around, what are they going to do with Translucence? How are they going to kill him? Being absolutely terrified of Homelander coming and, killing all of them and saving Translucent. And then ultimately Huey fucking blowing him up. And then we get fucking Cherry Bomb. Yeah, it's a pretty awesome fucking episode. I'll give it like an A tier. Next up, we have episode 3. Also a pretty good episode. I feel like this is especially one of the first, like, what the fuck episodes. I mean, of course, episode 2, where, get a bomb up the guys, what. It's pretty what the fuck. But, this one is, if you know, you know. The stuff with A-Train's race and all that, everything kind of surrounding that. That little moment between Homelander and Butcher, so good. It's just, yeah, it's awesome. I'll give it an A tier. Episode 4, God, it's so good. It's so good. You're really going to notice a big difference here between, how I feel about, the first season versus, like, the later seasons. Because just the writing used to be just so good. And, like, don't get me wrong, like, the stuff, like, later on isn't, like, it isn't, like, the worst thing in the world. But, it's also just, like, compared to this, it's like, come on. Anyway, yeah, so the stuff with, like, Flight 36, I believe, it's fucking perfect. It perfectly encapsulates everything that the show is trying to go for. This hunting down Kimiko is awesome. Getting to see Frenchie and Kimiko kind of begin their relationship. Seeing Black Noir absolutely kick her fucking ass. Getting Butcher's motivational speech. Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal. I'm giving that an S tier. Episode 5 is one of the weaker episodes of the first season. It's still not a bad episode by any means. And I love the commentary it has on Christianity and just how much it's always been shoved down our throats. It's also definitely has a lot of that edgy, the world sucks kind of energy, that the comics had. But there's also, the stuff with Butcher, MM, and, using the soup baby. There's, just, speaking of babies, Homelander hating Stillwell's baby. Just mad he's not getting that milk. But, yeah, no, I mean, overall, it's not a bad episode by any means. I'd give it like a B tier, but it's definitely not bad. Episode 6 is also around the same level to me, but just, I mean, obviously I already knew about it going in. I guess it's not obvious. But I did know about like a lot of the comic stuff before going into the show itself. But just the reveal that like Homelander raped Butcher's wife is just perfectly handled. And just, I mean, just the whole episode of getting to understand Butcher's POV, it's just, and why he does what he does, is just so good. But like, it's still not necessarily as good as like the other episodes, so I'm just gonna put it there. And also, these aren't in any order whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. Then episode 7, that's definitely one of the ones where it goes pretty off the fucking rails. A-Train, gets his leg broken, gets racially profiled, starts using a Compound V again, pushes his brother away. Trying to remember some of the stuff that happens, because the soup terrorists finally come into play, which is pretty cool, and everything seems like it's just about to go in the way of the boys until that happens, and then it's like, well, shit, now we need the soups. So, but and just Starlight finding out about Huey's involvement with everything and killing Translucent is also just really, really well handled. So I'm gonna put that in A tier. Might move that up later, but episode 8. I mean, like, honestly, do I even really need to say anything? It's so good. I mean, just, yeah. I mean, just pretty much everything, like, Homelander, like, killing Stillwell, finding out that Becca is still alive, that Homelander has a son who's still alive. Yeah. I mean, Starlight versus A-Train, it's also good. So that's season 1. Season 2... we have some slightly weaker episodes, all things considered, but honestly, still not terrible by any means. I don't even think I would go as far as to say they're bad, but, it does start to get into, like, especially, like, gross, immature, like, okay, we're the boys, we're finding our footing, and that footing is making people just who watch the show just regret life and just living overall. But season 2, episode 1, it's not terrible. There's some stuff, with Gecko where it's just like, okay, like, all right. But yeah, the stuff with Stormfront's really great. Kenji kind of brings it down a little bit, if I'm being honest, but it is also kind of nice to see some of Miko's backstory. Yeah, I'd give it like a C tier. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not amazing either. Episode 2 is also one of the weakest episodes of the show. I can see why for a while it was until season 5, it was the worst rated episode on IMDb. Yeah, the stuff with, like, the Deep, it's, his character is arguably one of the most, if not the most fascinating character in, like, the entire show. I'm just going from pathetic to, well, starting off a badass, but also, no. Who am I fucking kidding? Okay, he was always pathetic, but, just kind of, like, starting off as kind of like, okay, he's kind of cool, but he's still fucking pathetic, to just downright pathetic. And then later on we get to see him kind of in, like, a, kind of cool but still pathetic thing again. But at this point we're kind of seeing this pathetic kind of arc, like arguably the one of, if not the lowest points. And I feel like that whole part is definitely very interesting, but yeah, some of the stuff with, like, Patton Oswalt was just kind of like, what is going on here? So I'm just going to put that solidly in C tier. Episode 3. So, pretty good episode, honestly, all things considered. I will say the stuff with, when they're in the tunnels and stuff, and it's like the boys are, like lugging a train at Homelander, and it's just like, yeah, okay, I'll let this happen. The writing there isn't exactly the best because it's like, what are the seven doing exactly? But, you know, Stormfront's reveal that she's a racist motherfucker is incredible. So it at least goes, I'd say it at least goes to A tier. Episode 4, I think a lot of people see this as kind of more of a weaker episode. I personally enjoyed it quite a bit. It is definitely a bit of filler, but we're also finding out more about Stormfront and her character, which is great. I'd put that in like B tier, I'd say. Episode 5 is also a phenomenal episode. It's definitely got some weak moments, but it's not bad by any means. And just the stuff with Black Noir is great. And also finding out more about Butcher and his character, which helps emphasize some things about, Huey and why he was hired in the first place, with Butcher's brother who killed himself. I feel like this episode in particular was probably the most when I actually thought Black Noir was a clone of Stan Edgar. But kind of glad they didn't go down that route. But yeah, if I'm not touching on everything from the episodes, it's because I haven't watched them in a while. But yeah, episode 6, fucking phenomenal episode. Honestly, I'm just probably gonna go ahead and put it snugly up in S tier. The whole arc with the Soup Hospital is just so good. The stuff with Lamplighter and finally getting to find out what really happened with Mallory's grandchildren and with Frenchie and stuff is just, it's so good. It's also the episode, I'm pretty sure, where Stormfront tells Homelander that she's a fucking Nazi, which is pretty great. Just kind of seeing Homelander just be like, yeah, you're a Nazi. Well, I'll fuck you anyway. Seems like a very American thing to do. But yeah, then episode 7, trying to remember what happens. That's the one with Lamplighter and Huey trying to save Starlight. Yeah, it's not the worst episode. It's not particularly amazing to me, though. Getting to see Black Noir fight Starlight was pretty good. Queen Maeve revealing his weakness, which was kind of silly, but, it's fine. Some of the writing just kind of felt like it was a little bit off, but the ending is just so good that I might honestly even bring it up to A tier. I'm thinking about it. Because just that whole kind of what the fuck thing that happened at the end there was just so good. Yeah, I'm going to bring that up to A tier. Because it's like they finally think they've got him pinned down, and Butcher is just the epitome of Butcher when it comes to Vogelbaum and stuff like that in that episode. And then finding out, after they finally had him fucking pinned, all for nothing. Pretty good, honestly. And then season 2, episode 8, fucking phenomenal episode. So good. One of the best episodes in the entire goddamn show. Getting to see Stormfront. Ooh. Stormfront. I promise that was not on purpose. But, getting her comeuppance was just so good. Perfect. The girls get it done moment. After clowning on Endgame for, having that little kind of thing there. That was really good. Finding out that Ryan is, just a walking fucking tank. It was great. Homelander just going batshit, What else is there to say? It's a really good episode, and, Becca's death is deeply tragic, and yeah. Season 3, episode 1... is honestly, I'm very on the fence about it. because on one hand, this was the episode that made my mom stop watching it with me, and I don't fucking blame her. I don't understand why my dad watched it past this with me. But God, yeah, it's not the worst episode in the world. Just the stuff with Termite is just, it's a lot. But it's definitely not a bad episode by any means. But it's not amazing either. That conversation with Butcher and Homelander, though, is pretty cool. I'm talking about Scorched Earth, even though we didn't really get to see a huge amount of that in the final season, if any. But I'll touch on that later. Episode 2, all the way moving that up to S tier. Love that episode. Love Butcher finally getting to have powers and get to actually use them on Soups. Finding out he has fucking laser eyes. That was incredible. Homelander having his, Trump moment where he just kind of goes off on a fucking tangent. And watching, Todd and, MM's ex-wife's husband at the time, just kind of, or boyfriend or whatever, buy all that shit. It's like, yep, pretty realistic. And it's pretty fucking awesome. Yeah. Then episode 3, it's pretty good. There's some stuff with the octopus. It's just okay, all right. But getting to see Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy is awesome. Voice crack. Getting to see that whole kind of flashbacks thing was really cool. Getting to see Black Noir's face and seeing why he's mute is pretty awesome. The twist of Homelander and Starlight is incredible. I remember watching that for the first time. I can't remember when that came out, and just my mouth being agape at that twist. It was just so good. And yeah. Episode 4, S tier, absolutely. There's so much to go into with this episode. I mean, Soldier Boy is, he's back. We find out he has insane fucking powers. We see Butcher going off on those Russian soldiers. The boys first realize that he actually has powers, aside from Huey, who also gets powers. Supersonic getting killed. Off screen, brutally, but off screen. It was pretty fucking great. And honestly, with that trajectory and how they were going there, and also, with Homelander getting Victoria Newman to betray Stan Edgar, it was just kind of okay, what is Homelander going to do next? Especially, in that moment, it was just kind of okay. Huh. But episode 5, not a bad episode. I'd put that in B tier. Feels like a little bit of kind of an in-between episode between the crazy what the fuck stuff, but getting to see Soldier Boy kill Crimson Countess, see him in his armor, seeing those cracks begin to form between the members of the boys and Huey and Starlight. I'm trying to remember what else happens in that episode. I mean, it's not the worst episode in the world. It just feels like it kind of gets dragged down a little bit, especially with the Frenchie and Kimiko stuff, which is still adorable, but it's So then episode 6 is S tier. In my opinion, best episode of the show. Don't get me wrong, the stuff with the orgy is a lot. But, if we look past that, which I realize is hard, everything else just with Butcher finally being able to fight Homelander, at the same level, along with Soldier Boy with like probably some of the best choreographed fight scenes in like pretty much the whole show. It's so good. And finding out MM's backstory was devastating. Getting to see those cracks continue to form between Huey and Starlight, and also just Starlight finally just going all out. Like, fuck this, I'm out. It's the best episode. But the very close second is definitely episode 7. It's so good. Just, I feel like I've said that a lot in this video. But the twist at the end is just so good about Soldier Boy being Homelander's dad. The whole thing with Butcher and Lenny. I'm trying to remember what else happens in the episode. Starlight getting the best of Homelander was pretty great. And also, them finding out that the temporary V turns your brain into Swiss cheese and shit. It's a really good fucking episode. Then episode 8 is honestly the beginning of a very mediocre period of The Boys. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I gotta give it like a C tier, maybe a B. When I first watched it, I remember feeling pretty underwhelmed, just with how much the season had been building up to this huge thing with Homelander, like possibly losing his powers, and then Billy Butcher just kind of says, "Well, actually, Ryan's there, so we're gonna fight Soldier Boy." I also felt like Queen Maeve not dying when she had like no role in the rest of the show was kind of weird, especially because in the explosion she should have lost her powers, but she was still able to fall from that height. I like the twist at the end with Homelander, learning the worst possible lesson that his fanatics will still support him even if he kills someone. I do also really like what they do with Huey's character and him kind of reaching that conclusion that he doesn't need to have powers to be special, because he can support Starlight, who has, a huge glow up in this episode. God, that was cheesy. Sorry. And just getting to see Kamiko, learn to love her powers when she finds that she's not just a weapon anymore, and she's able to do what she wants with her powers. It's pretty cool. Now for probably my least favorite part of this episode video. Season 4. Oh boy. Episode 1, that's going to D tier. Not if I even really feel like touching on this very much. It's just, to be clear, I'm very liberal. Fuck Trump. I feel like I made that a little obvious earlier, but just because I'm liberal doesn't mean I don't see the fucking flaws in season 4 and 5, especially with how political it got. Homelander versus Trump is a great allegory, but it's just it was just so in your face, and it's a lot. But I'm trying to think of what other stuff went down, because building Sister Sage up to be this huge character, and while it does seem like she did have something to do with Homelander becoming president, she didn't really end up doing a huge amount. don't remember a huge amount, and I feel like that's honestly like that's a pretty huge tell. But to be fair, I also didn't remember like the most about those earlier episodes. But with this one, it just feels like it was the whole season was honestly something I just wish I could forget, and I feel like a significant part I have forgotten. For the best. For you, episode 2, I'm going to definitely put you in D tier. Did not need the human centipede. That was awful. Whole thing was just kind of it wasn't great. Then episode 3, also putting you in D tier. I'm trying to remember what happened in that episode. You can see the genuine struggle in me trying to think of anything good to talk about in that episode. What even? Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, I can't really think of anything. Yeah, and the stuff with Frenchie's boyfriend is just, it's bad. It's bad. The episode's bad. Episode 4 is probably the best episode of the season. But I am still going to put it in... God, do I want to put it in C tier? That's tough. That's really tough. Yeah, I'm going to put it in C tier. High C, but... Yeah, no, the Homelander stuff, fucking peak. I love it. Even though he's a piece of shit, getting to see how he became that way is, like, I see what they're going for. Some of the stuff with, like, making the guy jack off is just, like ugh. And then the stuff with Sister Sage and the lobotomy was just that was probably the hardest scene to sit through in the entire show. So, yeah. If it weren't for the Sister Sage thing, I'd put it up in, like, B tier, maybe even A, but, yeah. Episode 5, yeah, it's not great. Like, I liked that we got a little more of Simon Pegg, because I love him as an actor. And they did really set up. They did really set up that virus just for it to end up having almost no impact on the story, aside from just in that final showdown where Butcher and Huey are fighting over using the virus. But I don't know. It's just like I love Simon Pegg, but it's also You kill off, you seemingly, or about to kill off his character, and then you bring him back, and then kill him off again. It's like, it's just weak writing, like, flat out. And everything else is just such fucking filler with, the soup animals. It's just like, what are we doing? But yeah. Episode 6, I'm just going to go ahead and add a row below this. And I am going to call it yeah. I think that's all I need to say about that. I wonder if I can make it a... There's no brown. I want to make it brown like it was Dookie. Let's just do black. Black? I don't know if that worked. Yeah, it worked. Okay, maybe not that. You guys get to watch me fiddle around with this for no reason when the point's already been made. There we go. Episode 7. Probably like... I don't know. It's one of the better episodes from season 4. The whole fight with Butcher and Starlight and A-Train and The Deep and Black Noir too was pretty good, honestly. The scene with Homelander killing Webweaver, the stuff with Webweaver and all that was stupid, but the way that they handled that kill was phenomenal. I love the practical effects they used for that. I'll give that like a C tier, I think. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm trying to think of like... Yeah, because the stuff with the assassin is like... It's not great. But I'll put it there. Season 4, Episode 8. This honestly might be a hot take, but I'm putting it in D tier. There's definitely good aspects of this. Okay, maybe I'll put it in C tier, but it's like a C minus. The stuff with Homelander becoming president, basically, haunting at the time. After them, predicting that Trump was going to have an assassination attempt, and then needing to change the name of the goddamn episode because of it. But then finding out, from this episode, if they're correct, then he also becomes president and is going to put people into internment camps, which he did do. I love this country. And the stuff with Butcher was great. I loved the setup definitely way more than what we actually, than the seeming payoff, which we never really got in season 5. Of him being like just this ruthless, guy who's, arguably the real bad guy of the story, behind Homelander. Willing to do whatever it takes to kill all the Supes, including Homelander. It was pretty cool. And then they just kind of did nothing with that in season 5, really, for the most part. But, the stuff with Starlight really fucking drags the episode down, I will say. Yeah. And the Sister Sage thing is also, like, sure. I feel like it might be a bit of a hot take, but I honestly don't necessarily mind a huge amount that it'll end up being her plan, but at the same time it is also just lazy fucking writing, and I do see that. But I can also see how, that could have been her plan, because literally all she was doing was just getting a recording of Bob Singer, and making it so the only viable candidate could be Homelander's puppet. But yeah, if it weren't for the Starlight stuff, I'd probably put it in like B tier. But honestly, just actually even without that, I'd probably still put it in C tier because and Kimiko talking, that was a fucking devastating moment. That was incredible. I almost cried actually. If I'm being honest, when that happened, yeah. Yeah, like I'm very close to putting it in B, but if it weren't for the Starlight stuff, and yeah. Anyway, on to season 5, which I know a lot of people see as just about the worst fucking thing ever. To a certain degree, I agree, but compared to season 4, it's just not that bad, in my opinion. There's definitely some episodes that are weak as fuck, but I honestly didn't necessarily mind a huge amount. Season 5, I thought the way they handled some of the things definitely was not the best, but overall, I don't need to go away at season 5 anymore, because honestly, like, it's still not a great season, but the writing at times, when it comes to like the depths of the characters, like A Train, which we'll get into in just a sec, is just so good that I can honestly just kind of get behind it a bit. But it's still the second worst season. But yeah. That being said, this is probably the strongest first episode out of all 5 seasons. I was really impressed with what they went with here. And killing off A-Train took fucking balls. And I loved that. Honestly, if they had just released this episode, instead of, the 2, because they'd been doing like the first 3 episodes, in a bundle for like the last like 2 seasons. But they did just 2 this time. If they'd just done 1, honestly, it would have been, I would have been perfectly fine with that because it was just so good. The stuff with Kamiko is definitely a little weird, where she talks and it's like, okay, this is kind of strange. But yeah, no, I mean, it's just really fucking good. There's not much else to say. A-Train's arc is probably the best arc in the entire show. And yeah. Now, episode 2 is an interesting one for me. I feel like if I had to choose one, I'd probably get it in a B tier. Getting to see Soldier Boy again was great. I was fully convinced that they were going to kill him off, and I would have been so pissed, given that he's probably one of my favorite characters. No, definitely one of my favorite characters in the entire show. Some of the stuff really fucking drags, like the influencer soups and Hard Rock being just a giant fucking pile of molten cum. At that point, I was just thinking, like, God, I just want the show to be done. Like, it's just I feel like that was honestly my mindset for this whole season. Just like we're 1 episode down, like this much to go. 1 episode down, this much to go. We're almost done because there's no way in hell I'm watching Bot Rising. But I liked what they did with the virus, but also all things considered, it's like, did it really end up mattering too much? At the same time, though, it did a good job of building stakes for that. And yeah, no, I mean, that's, yeah. Episode 3. The fuck happens in episode 3? I'm trying to remember, because Soldier Boy's still alive. Homelander gets that vision. What else happens in that episode? Jeez. I'm genuine. Oh, right. The stuff with Ryan. Yeah. That's pretty good. Yeah, all things considered, it's honestly not like the biggest episode. I'd say it's maybe between B and C. I'd probably give it B tier. I love the way they keep predicting stuff about they kept predicting stuff about Trump before it happened, like with him thinking he was Jesus. That was pretty fucking funny, actually. But yeah, I was also worried that Homelander was going to have killed Ryan, but he was alive, which was good. And yeah, episode 4 is one of the weakest episodes in the entire show. I do feel like one of the only promising aspects of this episode is getting to see Homelander and Soldier Boy getting to see their kind of bond build a bit, so we can understand a bit more what happens in episode 6 and episode 5. But that's honestly about it. It's not a great episode. Then episode 5, it's okay. It does a lot of character building, which is like, for Firecracker and Sister Sage, sure, like they're newer characters. But if you're doing stuff for like, I don't know. I guess like I don't know. I guess the character building is. I can honestly kind of forgive the character building with like Black Noir 2 and stuff like that. Just because they're more recent additions to the character. But some of it is just like, okay. Especially because this is like the final season and they really need to ramp shit up at a certain point. But yeah, no. Firecracker's death though and how they handle her character is just in the episode's just peak. I really like that. If this wasn't like the fourth to last episode of the entire show, I would probably rate a little higher. I'd say like probably a C tier, maybe. Yeah, I think like a C tier. It's okay. Episode 6, another one of the worst episodes of the goddamn show. It drags so much. I can understand why Soldier Boy gives Homelander the V1, even though honestly it doesn't really end up mattering that much to the story. They were definitely building that up a lot. It also kind of largely shits on the whole virus, but yeah, I don't feel like talking about this too much because honestly it's just not a great episode. One of the worst in the show actually. Then episode 7, yeah, it's also not great. The only thing I feel like that's really keeping me thinking about this is Frenchie's death, because I feel like they actually did a pretty good job with that. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in D tier. I feel like just because the stuff with Kimiko is really weird, and it feels very fucking slow for the second to last episode of the goddamn show. The stuff with like Dognot and the cat or whatever, it's just like, I don't fucking care. This is awful, and it just feels like you're shitting in my face and telling me to eat it. It's like, it's not good. Like, I don't care. Jeffrey D. Morgan comes back, so that's something. But, yeah. And then, for the worst episode on IMDb currently, I might be having a bit of a hot take here when I put it up in A tier. No, it is not perfect by any means whatsoever. I am very disappointed with how we've been building up to Scorched Earth this whole time just for a fight in a room. I feel like the stuff I imagined from the show was honestly better than what we really got, but all things considered, it's honestly not the worst thing in the world. Butcher finally getting to kill Homelander, seeing Homelander grovel like a child was so good, even if they nerfed the fuck out of his character. Can see the Deep get his comeuppance. Getting to see Butcher be the final villain was pretty good. Huey and Starlight get there, forever after, which is awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, it's honestly not the worst thing in the world, but I can completely understand why people hate it so much. Yeah. So that's about it. That's every episode of The Boys. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.